you need to be uncomfortable in your relationship in order to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Physical touch, especially in dating. I think it's a maybe more taboo topic.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that all right, welcome to Two Single Guys. Understand why they're single. Today we're talking about dating, and we've got two very, very special guests. We've got Father Anthony Morgan and Christina Morgan. They have the same last name, not because they're brother-sister, but because they're married. How are you guys today?
How are you? Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I think you go to Liverpool Church, right?
I do.
Yeah, it's just, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I used to go. And it used to be very small.
Yes.
And I used to go Wednesday night Bible studies, and you were really pushing more people. Where is it? The people. And I used to think the same thing. And
Yeah.
But I went to a camp, I think it was this year. And I came and it was packed. 60 plus youth. Same I've never seen before. So how'd you go from like this small church with this small youth group to like a massive sort of group?
I think we had this conversation at camp, but I think it's important to allow God to nurture the church. It's so important that we allow God to allow Him to grow the church in His time. And I think that's what makes a healthy sort of parish when it grows too fast. And because, obviously we want more people. We don't want it to be small because, small means that, people are very somewhat maybe disconnected. They can't relate to each other. They feel a bit FOMO from other churches. The other churches are doing, so-and-so. But I think it's so important that we sort of allow God to nurture, we allow Him to take care of the process itself. And, we're just merely tools in His hands, and we've got to be patient in the making. And you'll find that, from generation to generation, there's peaks, there's troughs in every church, I believe, anyway.
You were at the camp.
Yes.
How much would you say you contribute to the youth?
I talk a lot. I keep talking. I think, growing up myself, I had really beautiful people serving me. And when I reflected on what was it that sort of got me attached to those servants and to church, it was because they really cared about me. They cared about my welfare. They cared about, what I had got going on in my own life. And they were interested in the personal details. And I think, serving, attending church and, walking this journey alongside Abuna, I think it's so important to get to know people for who they are. They're all individual and they're all unique. And I think service should look like, caring for someone's welfare more than, just attending youth meetings and, attending Bible study, attending all the, church services. It's actually getting to know people on a very personal level and getting to know them for who they are and what they're like and what they have happening in their life and being involved in that and joining in on that. And I think it feels like family at church. Like when we first started going to church, it was so little and very cute, and people were just so loving and nurturing to us that they immediately made us feel like this is family. And so when you see church as family, you immediately become interested in, individuals as who they are.
And I think we've possibly lost that sense of family because communities have become much bigger where, I think more successful churches are a bit more smaller. When they become mega churches, we lose that connection with people, following on from what Tina's saying anyway. So, thank God. I mean, obviously it's growing, but we hope to sort of continue to keep that family feel, that connectivity with, the youth, the different people that come through the church. So, it's been amazing.
I agree. Saint Oneness represent.
Yeah.
Our church is quite small, but I think the biggest compliment that we get regularly is that when a new person enters the church, they don't feel like there's a welcoming team. They feel like everyone's the welcoming team.
Beautiful.
So it's like, oh, that's a new person. And then they just get bombarded with like genuinely the whole church.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part about the
100%.
church. Because when
that's how church should feel.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think they get a bit disconnected when there's like that welcoming team, and it's nothing against that. It's just that they feel like that's their purpose for that person to talk to them, and then it kind of disconnects them a bit. But it's understandable. If you have a church with so many people, you have to sort of delegate tasks, and
100%.
and it's just the way it is.
Sometimes they're out of control as well, you know. And so you got to just deal with what you have. Not to say that's bad. It's a good sort of thing to have. There's a lot of people coming to your church, but you know, I think at the time, you know, we're growing slowly. Like I said, we allowed God to nurture the process rather than us. Sometimes it got frustrating, I have to admit. You know, you're trying your very best, but I think along the journey, we started to see God's hand in a very different way, and He'd send at the right time the right servants, and those servants would sort of fit in and be able to work according to His will, not to what we wanted to sort of happen. So one point in time, we just let go and let God
enjoy the process.
When it was the camp, it was your birthday. So they celebrated your birthday. You came in, you got surprised, and
happy birthday.
That's long gone, but anyway.
No, I've had 15 birthdays last year. I had one on a plane when it wasn't my birthday. The boys just started.
That's cute.
Then they say like, "Oh, it's Tim's birthday," and then the whole plane just sings.
I actually have a video. I'll try and find it and put it in, where it's someone in like the PA system or whatever it's called said, "Oh, we've got a lucky person, Tim. It's his birthday," and then everyone in the whole plane, and I'm just.
Did you get any freebies
Anyway,
like on the plane?
It was
Must have
boutique
felt
air. You're not getting anything on that flight.
It'll be worth it if you get a freebie.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We want to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Tim, and we appreciate your cooperation, all of you, to sing a birthday song to him.
Happy birthday.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Tim. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, hooray! Tim, hooray! Hooray!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Jimmy!
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Jimmy! Happy birthday, Jimmy! Birthday! Happy birthday! Happy birthday to you!
Yeah. So at camp,
I kind of lost my train of thought, but I'll try to think I was going to say, you did like a little speech and you said that I do all this because I love Jesus. Okay. And I had a follow-up question, but I kind of forgot.
Okay. We're going somewhere with them.
Sorry, Chris.
That's right. So I'll try to remember the question. I have a very short attention span. So.
Either you capture it or it's gone.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was something along the lines of, it gets tough. You said it gets tough.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It gets tough. But, you know, at the end of the day, when you love Christ so much, regardless of how hard it is, and, you know, we are human, priests are human, you just look at the face of Christ and, you know, it says a lot of words to you. You know, it spells out love, it spells out mercy, it spells out, you know, long-suffering for us and many, many other things as well. So when things get hard, you still keep on persevering regardless. You keep on going and it gives you the strength, you know. That's the beauty about it. So our love for Christ is what sort of, I believe, gives us that longevity, that drive to keep on going and continuing.
Yeah. If you do feel overwhelmed, do you feel like Christ kind of just makes it disappear?
Yeah. I mean, this last weekend was, my wife would know. It was very overwhelming, back to back.
And you still came today.
Things, different services, you know, driving distances and trying to make it all happen, whether it's for your parish, whether supporting other churches, whether you're for your family or, you know, friends. You're trying to make it happen for everyone. Sometimes you leave yourself last and that's okay. But like I said, it's sometimes the human effect kicks in. And so sometimes it's, you know, going back to the altar and holding onto the altar and asking for that support. And through the altar, you get that support, you get that drive.
Do you ever draw a line and say, no, I can no longer help you? Like, I've helped you enough? that's it. I need my own sort of time. I can't do it.
I think it's important to sort of try to balance your service. I mean, you don't want to sort of be burnt out at the end. I think it's important to try to do what you can, but within reason. You know, God's entrusted you on a parish, He's entrusted you with a family, wife and children, entrusted you with souls. So there has to be a line in the sand where you can do what you can do without compromising these things. I think it's so important we do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the people who clicked on this video, the title of it said dating.
Okay.
So let's get stuck in. I think we'll just start just broadly. What is dating? Obviously, you guys are married, so I'm sure you dated.
At some point there was there.
What are your views? A lot of people have a view that in like Egyptian kind of culture, and if you go back, that no such thing as dating. It's just the engagement, just arranged marriage now.
Undercovers.
Yeah. So
Your cousin,
my cousin. Yeah. Okay. But
not your cousin.
yeah, I know, but like
yeah.
the concept, I get you. But yeah, so what would you guys say dating is in the Orthodox perspective, and maybe a story about you guys dating?
Yeah.
If you're willing to share.
You maybe start.
I'm actually happy that we're using the word dating. I think for the longest time there was a no-name period. There was an undercover period, and I think what came with that was a lot of hush-hush, a lot of secrecy, a lot of no talking, a lot of no consultation about what this period should look like. I think we've evolved and moved into a space where we talk about Christian dating. And that's a really good place to be in, because naturally people need to get to know one another. There needs to be a time frame where people do get to know one another. And before engagement, before formalities, before commitment. And, part of that is actually getting to know yourself first, actually seeing what is it that you're attracted to to have in a relationship with somebody. And the only way to do that is to actually get to know someone during a time without, a finality of commitment.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So back in the day, you marry your neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay. And boom.
Yeah.
60 years married,
Yes.
happily married, you
Yes.
die happy and everyone's fine. Now it's more like, you date, not multiple people at the same time, but you date to see what you like.
Yep.
What's changed?
One of my favorite dating stories is actually of my teta. So my teta, I think she probably got together with my geddu when they were like in the 1920s or something. I don't even know. But anyway, and the whole thing started off when she got bitten by a dog in the hara, in the street, And my geddu happened to be there at the same time, of her getting bitten by this dog. And I think he was 14 years her senior or something. So he went to naturally go rescue this little girl that got bitten by a dog, and took her to hospital, and she had to remain in hospital for 21 days to get the injections every day, because that's what happened back then. And during that time, that was their dating phase in the hospital. So he would bring her food every day and they would talk. And then she told us, she told me this story that as she got discharged, she took her back to her house, his house, with her parents' permission, to cook him a meal, to see what her cooking skills was like. And then she cooked him a meal that he really liked. So then he asked for a hand, and that was the end of that. And they had 9 children, all very saintly people.
Wow.
Very successful upbringing, like in their home, very little materialistic things, but it worked. And going back to your question, I think society back then, there was a lot of clarity on core values, beliefs. Things were far more black and white. I think as society evolved and from a sociological sort of perspective, things became more complex. People's beliefs, core beliefs and values became a little bit more, people became more confused about their own core beliefs and values. And I think, people are trying to adapt as well to society as it changes.
So would you say that everyone's kind of lost, they're more lost, and
I
you're
think-
trying to find for someone who's not really lost?
I think we've lost simplicity.
Mm.
I think we've lost
100%.
simplicity in what the intention of, say, relationship, and going back, God's intention for relationship. Okay, what is God's intention for relationship? And I think society has miscued that, and man's created this perception of what dating should be versus what God's perception of dating should be. And I think we've just journeyed along with what man has told us to do, but we haven't gone. We tend to sort of forget to go back to the origin, to the start point. What's God's intention in relationships? For instance, in dating, what's his intention? And so I think it's important that we always go back to the origin, always revisit. Society is always going to change. When we look at the year of the apostles, for instance, the look of the church back then would be very different than the look of the church today, 100%. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But what's been consistent is, our faith, our traditions, that hasn't changed. And so we can't afford to sort of just go along with what society is telling us to do and the change of society. We've also got to be, tapping back and relating back to what's our origin, what's the start point. What did God intend for relationships to look like, to be?
So what is that?
Well, I guess at the end of the day, to be fruitful, to multiply, he was, to keep that purity. He was the one that created man and woman in his likeness, his image. He was the one that, made woman equal to man by taking the rib from Adam. There was that equality between man and woman. He was the one that, brought the woman to Adam, Eve to Adam, making this a pure, holy relationship, a holy marriage.
Would you ever recommend online advice? These YouTube videos have millions of views, how to date or how to be in a relationship or whatever. There's 1,000 of them. Would you ever say, yeah, there's some good stuff in it? Would you avoid it completely, or would you use the good out of it?
Look, I'm not a big YouTuber, but I'm assuming there's always goodness, but I think we've got to be careful. I think it's important to sort of be able to listen, to sort of hear people's point of views, but also make sure that it's aligned with our church, with our faith.
Would you say listening to your confession father or your spiritual guide is enough? You don't need anything else? You just need to listen to, and obviously your close friends and family. Would you say, I don't need any online relationship advice. I don't need to watch these videos. I don't need to watch these Instagram reels. My confession father, my close friends and family is enough. Would you say?
I think, look, depending on how much we sort of disclose to our confession fathers, our spiritual fathers, I definitely feel like if I'm very close to them and I believe that the Holy Spirit is guiding them, that should be enough. But again, it's not to say that we can't listen and sort of, understand what's happening out there, to discern from good and from bad. I think it's important to get an understanding. We need to be able to sort of hear what society's talking about, understand what society's talking about, but also be very, very connected to someone that's very spiritually grounded to help us guide us through this journey. I think it's important.
Question. Yeah, sorry, I'll take it. So in my opinion, this is actually a personal opinion, and it kind of got struck as you guys were talking. With your situation, it was as simple as can be. There wasn't any spiritual father involved. There wasn't anything. It was just simply like I kind of just choose to commit to this person, and it was fruitful. It worked.
You're talking about which situation?
With your teta.
Oh, with my teta. Yeah.
So like,
which makes a better movie than most movies today.
I think when I because I would ask her, I was, and I also, part of my work, I did a lot of work in the aged care ward. So I'd often speak to a lot of elderly people about how they got together and all of that. And I was very intrigued by that. And I think on Abuna's point, I think there was simplicity and there was clarity on their values. So it wasn't, I think there's so many more things that we look for in relationships now that we're trying to align our partner to have that's similar to us. Whereas for them, it was like 3-4 core values that were very simple, very straightforward. And we're going to work. The rest of it was work hard and make it work.
What do you think these are the 3 main or 4 main values that it will work?
The green flags.
The green flags.
Not really the green flags, but the 4 main things that it will work.
Okay. Look, if we kind of look at, I think everyone's 4 things might look a little bit different.
There's got to be main ones.
But I think some main ones that would sound is, your faith, your
100%.
belief systems, where do these values stem from? Your faith and your beliefs. How you think on family, like your family understandings, how you form family, how you do family, how you did family. All of that plays a huge role in 2 people coming together. I think, and also building families, so kids around kids, what does that look like? Your values around how you're going to raise a family together. Money is a huge one. How you spend money, how you think about money. Where does money, where does your energy how much energy do you invest in making money? And is that a huge priority in your life, both of your lives?
I think under a banner of, general outlook in life, that has to be aligned. I think, faith, family, your general outlook in life, I think are the 3, for me anyway, personally, are 3 main ones that you'd sort of want to make sure that, you've got
alignment.
Something that was, so yesterday I went to a talk in Blacktown. I actually didn't even go for the talk. I went because my friend was doing my cousin actually was doing a segment, and it was good that I went because now I'm mentioning it. In the talk, funnily enough, he was talking about, it was Father Andrew Francis, and he was talking about Gary Chapman's book, which are 12 things I wish I knew before I got married.
Yeah,
I was like, this is perfect. Let me jot down some stuff.
Yeah.
He was saying family is a big thing.
Yeah.
One of the things he mentioned was that in a relationship, when you're looking for a partner, you should look to what their mother and father is like, because most likely they will replicate, like more often than not, unless they're very conscious of their habits and stuff, they will most likely replicate what their mother or father is, depending on their gender. So my question is it kind of struck me, and it troubled me a bit, because what if I am interested in a girl and she comes from a broken household and her parents aren't really in the picture? How do I sort of justify that?
I don't think there should be, strictly one way of, we all take on life very differently. Even in, siblings in one family will respond to things very differently. To, for example, something like a broken home, So someone might be impacted by it in the family. Another person might compartmentalize themselves in a way to kind of find a way forward from it. Someone else might be absolutely rejecting that this will happen again or replicate in their own life. So people will respond, humanity will always respond to different things, in their own way. And it's hard to sort of stereotype and say, just because that's happened in the family of origin, in your family of origin's home, that therefore it will happen, they'll take that on, because there's so many variables and so many factors that will actually make that different, and won't necessarily be the case, because it might not be a family breakdown. It might be a death in the family where, a child grows up without one parent, for example, and that doesn't mean that there's something, going to be wrong with them. It's just, that's the cards that, that's God's will in their life. And they've had to, God resources people as well, as, when things, tragedy takes place or hard things take place, God still finds a way to look after that family, and to still look, protect them, to be the best that they can be. So I wouldn't say it's a hard and fast rule that this is, A plus B equals C kind of thing. I think you need to get to know the person for who they are, because on the flip side of that, someone could come from an excellent family home, and they could be the doctor, and they could be the deacon and the servant, and then they get married and they have a huge breakdown, and that had nothing to do with their parents, and it had nothing to do with their upbringing or have to do with the service that they were serving in, So it's important to assess and to look at a person for who they are individually and get to know that person for who they are individually.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry.
I think you answered it.
No, that's great.
It's great.
I have another question is, so you were saying that person who's maybe the deacon and they're serving and all these things and they're building up the appearance that they're top prospect.
Yeah. Big fish.
Yeah. So my question is often, I think about this often actually.
Yeah.
Often we are very good at playing the role of, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm the one to come get. Like,
Yeah.
And we approach service, we approach church, we approach all of these things as okay, I'm ticking all these boxes to get brownie points for the other side. And our intentions are not in God, but our intentions are in, look at me. How do we, this is probably more important, how do we ourselves try and kind of search for God as opposed to the things that come with searching for God, like all the beneficial things? That's the first question. And secondly, how do we kind of fish that out in someone else? So like, how do I say there's a girl who's serving in all these things and in my eyesight, she looks great, but
She ticks all the boxes.
But her intentions for doing so are wrong.
I'll answer this in two ways. The first is, when you think about it, God doesn't really need my service or your service, but it's merely there for our salvation, to get closer to Him, to become better people. It's almost like a bridge. It helps us. It helps our journey, our spiritual journey. And so that's for us personally. We need to use service as that platform to get closer to God. If anything else becomes part of this, then I think we really need to reconsider why we're doing this service. I think it's so important to have that very, very clear outlook, that clear understanding of what it is that I'm doing in the service. You know, what are my intentions? Are there agendas behind this service, yes or no? But the primary reason is that it's merely there for my salvation, to get closer to God. It's a personal thing. It's got nothing to do, shouldn't have anything to do with self-glorification or, trying to sort of make myself popular by no means. Okay, so the first intention, the first idea is that we become closer to God through this. The other side of the question is that I think we need to understand that all of us are really at church for several hours a week. So, for instance, if you look at it from a timing perspective, Sunday school, I'm there for a few hours. So there's got to be much more to that person than just the service. And so I really need to understand that person outside of church. Sometimes we just look at the person within church. True story, there was a person that came to me and asked me for my opinion about a certain deacon or a servant in the church. And I said to this person, look, all I know about this person is, I know them because I see them on Sunday, 2 hours, 3 hours a week. That's about it. They're a good person. They're a good deacon.
For the 2 hours.
For the 2 hours, 3 hours that I personally see them anyway at church on Sunday, and that was it. And so obviously they were asking because it was in a relationship with someone from another state. And so they eventually got married. And at the time, the person really got upset with me because I really didn't sort of amp them up. I didn't really sort of say that they're cool deacon, they're the best thing ever. Didn't. I said what I knew, and I was honest with what I knew. And so the other person obviously got upset. I didn't amp them up. But anyway, they got married. And anyway, several years later, they actually got...
Things broke down.
There was an annulment in the relationship. Okay, or they got the absolution, or I'm not sure exactly what they got. But anyway, they're not together. And so the person came up to me and they were apologetic in a sense that they really understood my perspective is I'm only going to give you what I understand about the person. It's so important then that we need to go and do our research outside of church. Sometimes people put on a facade, they put on a mask. They don't know how to be. They're one thing at church and they're completely different outside of church. And maybe because they just don't know how to be. They don't distinguish between, what's church and what's outside.
Aware of it.
Well, maybe not self-aware. So I think it's so important that we actually go and seek and learn more about the person, not just at church, but go and find out who this person really is. And that means that you need to spend a lot of time with them, not just at church, outside of church.
I was going to say there's something, I came across the term cues of authenticity. So you're looking for cues of authenticity in a person, things, the words that they, say, does it match the actions that they do, and a way of doing that is, not sitting in a very rehearsed kind of place, like sitting at a restaurant or cafe only, or sitting at church and, talking about service. Like this is, it's very easy to fall into our rehearsed, best kind of, roles in those kinds of.
And it's sometimes because that's all we know.
Yeah.
That's why we do that. Well, all we know is church. All we know is, going to a restaurant, having a meal, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I think it's got to be much bigger than that, deeper than that.
Yeah.
We were speaking about this the other day.
And so, a way of doing that is like there's something called the road trip challenge. You go on a road trip where you have no phones, no distractions, no music, and you're literally having conversations, stopping at, doing adventures along the way, seeing how, people are interacting, with you in that time, seeing your alignment of your thoughts, are you aligned in your way of thinking? Do you share the same values? How do you, handle conflict? For example, if you come up with, a few pointers of like, where you might irk the other person to kind of sort of see how they respond, how are they taking that on? How are they responding back to you on that kind of thing? So I think it's, being in a far more natural habitat sometimes can invite more, more opportunities for these cues of authenticity to take place.
Would you ask any specific questions to test authenticity?
I think it's got to be, what's the word? Lost.
Authentic.
Authentic.
Natural.
I think it's natural.
Yeah.
I think.
Depends on what stage of the relationship as well.
I guess so. But I think the more natural you are, the more raw you are, the more, I guess, honest and open you are. I think that lends itself and it helps it to become a natural conversation. I think you can tell when conversation is very, very staged versus a conversation that's very sort of authentic, very natural, very free-flowing.
Vulnerable.
And you're allowing yourself to be exposed and you're okay with that. There's no worries anymore of hiding. There's no more worries of, trying to sort of hide behind a mask. You're generally open to anything. You're allowing yourself to sort of be free and the other person getting to know you more and more of who you are. You're sort of upset. You're upset. You're happy when you're happy. And they know who you are.
Yeah.
They get that sort of complete picture.
Yeah.
What if you're scared to open up? You're scared because they might not like you anymore. What would you say to that?
I think, look, you can sort of hide for as long as you want. I don't want to use the word hide. Maybe I'll, use a probably different word. Maybe sort of hide behind a mask. But you can only do that for so long. And if you're honest to this relationship, I think you need to sort of find strength in being who you are and being confident in who you are, and allowing the other person to appreciate who you are. At the end of the day, they need to like who you are. They need to accept who you are. They need to come to terms with this is who this person is, or this relationship will at one point in time break down. And so honesty becomes the core. So we all have fears. We all don't want to expose ourselves. And when you think about it, like no one wants to feel exposed. No one wants to sort of feel that sense of control, I don't know if control is the right word, but we can
vulnerable. I think, yeah.
But I think when you think about it, like look at St. Peter, for instance, when our Lord came to wash his feet, he was obviously quite vulnerable because, he wasn't in control of the situation. When I'm sort of scared and I'm hiding behind a mask, I'm in control. I'm not giving everything that I need to give. Okay. But when our Lord pushed him and he said, you're not going to be part of me, what happened? I've lost my train of thought.
I want to ask. Oh yeah, do you want to ask something?
No. It's interesting because so we posted on our Instagram a quote, and we just got a poll whether people agree or disagree to this. I'm curious what you guys think, and then I'll tell you what the poll said. It says the best definition of love I heard. all right, is
I saw that.
yeah, you saw it. Love is giving someone the power to destroy you and trusting they won't use it.
100%. I think to some sort of degree there's truth and honesty in that, but I'll rephrase it in such a way. I'm just trying to think of the term. I just used it in the book club.
Yeah. When you're thinking about that, I had another question. It's something to
I
do with
personally agree.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the best, best definition of love, but I just think it's true, and I think that's where we get like the concept of the fear of God.
I think the word destroy is very strong.
Yeah, yeah.
I think for me, there's I don't know if you guys follow any of Brené Brown's work on the power of vulnerability. So to be vulnerable there's a power in that. So I think to term love and to put the word love and destroy in one sentence is almost it's opposite. Like it's not. But I think to be when you love somebody, you are very vulnerable in that time, and when you feel vulnerable, it can feel like you don't have that sense of control, and that's an unfamiliar feeling, to have kind of thing. But she talks on, when you do actually invest in that vulnerability and see it as a power to you, it actually invites things like compassion and empathy and connection with another human being. And that allowance of your vulnerability, or you're permitting your vulnerability to appear in front of another person, allows that connection and empathy to then be born and to build on that.
There's a group on social media. I think they're known as the Red Pill Advice people. I don't know what's the terms these days, but they usually say never be vulnerable in front of your girl because number one, they'll use it against you.
Yeah.
And they'll lose interest. What do you think about that? So
what does vulnerable mean? Like, I guess I would question what is actually vulnerable. It's not like you're falling apart and texting, like a serial texter and, and you're like, like that's not the idea. The idea is, you're choosing. It's first of all, I think before that, at one point before that is two people choosing to be each other, to be with one another. And, from a Christian perspective, like when you're choosing to be with another, you're thinking about sacrifice and you're thinking about giving and you're thinking about offering and that's that is the Christian context of love. I think there's a worldly context of love, and that looks very different where, it might be about taking, what am I going to get out of this kind of thing? And what you're talking about fits in more of a sort of worldly way of thinking about love rather than a Christian way of loving one another.
Yeah. Well, 1 Corinthians 7:4 just reminded me with that verse. New King James Version says, "The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does." So I think that it's kind of testament to like sort of surrendering yourself for one another. And we say it in the marriage sacrament.
Yep.
The crowning ceremony.
And I think that's it kind of links to that quote where it's like, I'm giving you the power. And the way I don't know if this is right, please correct me. Also, by the way, Tina is like a counselor. So this is why she's very knowledgeable on these things.
No, I'm not. Absolutely not.
and you specialized in relationship in your master's degree.
No, right? So I did. I am not in relationship, in family systems.
Family systems.
Yeah. Relationship, wife, husband, same thing.
No, but my sort of thought process over vulnerability is just like you being your complete and utter self with no holds barred. Like the same way you're with your family. I mean, some people are different around their families, but just you in your true state, as true as can be, nothing else. That is you when you're vulnerable. If you can be with that with someone. Yeah,
I think it's at what stage of the relationship you do that. Obviously,
of course,
when you two people become friends, you're not going to pour out like immediately your entire guts and your heart and everything on the table like immediately. Like there's got to be a testing period, a growth period, a getting to know time period, and then your instincts, your gut tells you this feels safe, this feels okay. and then you start letting your guards or your walls down a little bit, and you keep walking that journey still with them, and that, you know, it's a natural organic sort of dropping down of that guard, and that vulnerability becomes more real then. I wouldn't say it's from the word get-go that you would do that. Like, I think you're still testing the waters. You're trying to understand, is there any red flags at the beginning? Is there anything to be careful of before you allow yourself, you know, to be vulnerable and to be more exposed or to be more open, you know?
Yeah. And on the back of that, and I remembered, you need to be uncomfortable in your relationship in order to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to understand that, and if you can grasp that concept really well, you'll be able to open up yourself. You'll be able to, you know, allow people to enter by being uncomfortable. And no one wants to be uncomfortable. It's really hard. It's not an easy thing to sort of allow people to come in, especially to something that's very secret, that's very private. But when you allow that person, or that person allows himself or herself to be uncomfortable, they will then be comfortable in this relationship. It's very important.
We did an episode with Father Elijah on conflict in relationships. And one of the main things I got out of it was, if you're dating, let's say, or if you have any friend, it was about relationships, not just like in the sense of marriage. But if you're specifically dating and it's a couple years or whatever, and you're like, oh, we're doing great, we haven't had a fight, we haven't had anything. Yeah, red flags.
Red flags.
They're lying to themselves.
Yeah. So the reason being, when we were discussing, was that you don't know anything about each other, because
100%.
there's no way that you both have the exact same view on every single thing, and you're not letting your walls down.
100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So, question: what would be the correct progression in the sense of, like, okay, I like this person, she likes me, all right, what do we do from here? How often should we see each other? We should see each other, what you were saying, is outside of church and get to know each other in that environment. Or?
I'll tell you our little story. It was a church masquerade.
This guy prayed a lot. As
I did.
I just want to. There's a disclaimer to this.
I did pray a lot.
He prayed a lot.
But I think, like, for us anyway, personally, like, there was a church masquerade ball, and I was a very, very quiet person by nature. Like,
Koya, CYC.
Koya, CYC, all of that.
It's always at the camps.
Yeah. And anyway, I went. Everyone's obviously masked up, and I came to meet Tina. Obviously,
You didn't come to meet me specifically.
No, not specifically, but I ran into Tina, I should say. So let's rephrase that.
Little do you know.
Yeah. And so obviously physically attracted to her, but I was also equally attracted to her for her inner beauty. And I think that's so important. And from there, those two elements, the external, those two elements, the external and the inner, are so important to ensure this compatibility and to ensure, you know, that we can sort of then move forward. I think, you know, sometimes we base our understanding on the external, and that's important. I'm not saying that's not important. There's got to be that external, that physical attraction externally. But equally, I think there needs to be that inner beauty as well. And so for me, that gave me peace. I was able to sort of connect in a very, very real way, connect in a way that, you know, probably I wasn't able to do before. And so from there, it was, you know, I wanted to see her more and more, wanted to sort of be with her. And, you know, we used to see each other nearly daily, I think, and got to know each other, not just at church, but outside of church. I remember I'd come home and, you know, I used to live in the Shire. I'd travel all the way to Preston's, you know, it was a slog at one sort of time, but, you know,
I did the hard yards.
I did the hard yards, but, you know, when you want to be with someone and get to know them more and more, you'll be doing that. I think that there has to be a journey. There's got to be that initial attraction, physical. There's got to be that attraction for the person's inner beauty. There has to be that compatibility, and then from there, you by yourself will want to be with that person and know more about that person.
I want to talk about that verse you brought up. You know, the idea of in church, in the marriage ceremony, it says the woman must submit to the husband. Every single time when that comes up, I look at the congregation.
And it's ha-ha.
And it's not. There was actually one time we had an Australian wedding where we didn't use the word submit. We changed it with help. because it would have caused problems for that wedding.
Yeah.
So, and I was actually on the phone today with someone, and someone told me to ask you this question. You know, so what does it mean for the woman to submit to her husband, and why is it looked so down upon? If that makes sense, I don't know. But like, why is it looked down upon for the woman to submit to the husband? Why is the reaction?
I think we sometimes tend to look at submit from a worldly way, and place or misplace that word with the worldly sort of view of submission. Where if we go back, like I said, to the origin, the whole idea is that we're equals to one another. I think submitting to one another, I think it's two ways, but I think that whole idea of that the wife isn't submitting from a worldly perspective, but a spiritual perspective, meaning that she is walking the journey with the husband. Her husband is the head of the family, the priest of the family, being alongside with him, aligning their thoughts, their ideas together to sort of come up with a household that is submissive to Christ, Christ being the head of the church, and so forth.
So why is it looked down on the word submit? Like why?
Like I said, I think people have just misunderstood it.
Yeah.
Misunderstood it, used it in a worldly way. We replaced it from a spiritual word to a secular word, a very worldly sort of term. The church hasn't. People have misused that, misunderstood it in that sort of context.
What about when it says, "Wives, obey your husbands, just like Sarah said to Abraham, Lord, Lord"?
That's a really hard question. That needs a very theological.
Well, they say in the marriage ceremony.
Yeah. No, I've heard a lot of interpretation on all of it, and it's, but I think, like I wouldn't be able to comment on it like enough. Yeah.
Sabuna's job.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, I think whenever we hear it get read out, it is wives submit. I have it here. So this is Ephesians 5 verse 22. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Okay, and then they're like, oh wow, that's horrific. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not giving up everything to this guy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway, and then it says, if we read further, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it, that he may sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. And then it goes on to talk about how Christ sacrificed himself to the church. So I think if you take it in its holistic like context, it's saying, yes, wives, submit to your man, but that man is literally sacrificing his whole life. He's dying the same way Christ died on the cross
for the church,
and also so that you appear spotless and without blemish. It's like what is the greater of the two? And I'm not trying to say like one's greater than the other, but it's just like conceptually, it's like, it's not like you're just submitting yourself to like any guy and he's like some tyrant, arrogant narcissist who can just control you. It's like it's a beautiful concept.
Yeah, definitely. It's meant to be beautiful. I don't think it's meant to sort of have that, like I said, that worldly sort of take on it, but there's that beauty behind it. Like Christ, when he sacrificed himself, being the bridegroom, sacrificed himself for the bride, the church. And there's that beauty of him, giving himself up entirely, wholly for the entire church. And the male, the husband, will do the same thing for his church, for his family as well. So there's this continual beauty between both sides, the husband and the wife, both doing certain things for the sanctity, for the holiness of this relationship, for the holiness of this family household.
And the two are one, like essentially. So when you're submitting to one side of one part of you, that doesn't mean that part is any less. Like if we see ourselves as one, so when we pour sacrifice or pour, whatever it is that we have, whatever resources, we're pouring it into the same pot. It's one, and it's not divided, and it's not, seen as, I think culture and society have put spins and twists on the interpretation of the biblical verses, and that's why we hear it that way, because that's how we know language. But I think if we go back into, the theology and the history of why these words were specifically picked in the Bible, there would be far more meaning to really, point to the direction that, like what Bona was saying, like it's sacrifice, it's togetherness, it's unity. So it's not one over the other,
There's no church without Christ.
Exactly.
And there's no Christ without the church.
I think you can't look at each side by itself. I think sometimes we can't,
it's relational. Yeah.
No, what do you say?
Compartment.
That's
that word.
See, we complete each other.
But yeah, sometimes we often sort of view each sort of side separately, but we don't link the two together. And I think it's important to link, because at the end of the day, we're united. This whole sacrament brings the husband and wife together as one. And so we can't look at one side and just view the one side and just have commentary about the one side. I think we've got to look at it holistically and understand it holistically.
It's like the Trinity.
So,
we're not going to go into that.
I was going to say in marriage counselling, we often speak to people about you show up to every day as 100% together. You don't show up as 100% separately and individually. But so if there's a day where I'm showing up as 20% and Abuna needs to pick up the 80, we're completing one another. We're completing the day with one another, and vice versa. And so it's this constant, togetherness and how we're going to do life together every day. And if that's something that, when you do come to, look and seek for potential partners, you're looking, is this person going to be beside me, standing next to me just on a wedding day looking pretty in pictures? Or is this person going to carry the load and go through the hard yards of conflict and tragedy, or, life, unforeseen circumstances that get chucked at you every day? And is this person going to be whole with me, going to carry the load with me, or am I going to be alone and having to fend, for our family alone,
For sure. So we have a question from an Abuna.
Yeah, we're kind of supposed to show in the beginning, but we kind of forgot as well.
Yeah.
But there are no rules.
Yeah.
Oh, how evil should I be?
Just throw them in the deep end.
Thanks, Abuna.
Yeah, why not be evil?
Please be
And you
merciful.
can ask the same questions. Why does God allow evil?
No, look, I suppose my question would be, okay, I'm actually curious to know the answer to this. I've noticed recently there is a phenomenon, particularly among young men, to kind of be scared of commitment. I'd love to know if he has noticed that, and if he has, what does he think is the reason behind it?
Very interesting.
Chris, what do you
Very
reckon?
interesting.
That's interesting.
And then I proceed to bully Chris. That he can't commit. No, I'm joking.
Do you guys agree? Do you reckon there is
yeah.
amongst men?
Yeah, I have a theory.
Yeah? What's your theory?
Oh, okay. The question's not for me.
Yeah,
Well, look,
I'm good
I
at
have a
deflecting
theory.
questions.
I agree with Abuna.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I totally agree. We see this quite often now, and I think it's becoming more and more apparent, more and more evident, the lack of commitment. But would like to sort of hear your theory first.
Okay.
Throw it back to you guys.
You signed up for this.
My theory is, I spoke about it on the Father Mark podcast. We did it on relationships. And it's about the paradox of choice. So I just think that it's pretty much more or less the concept that because we have social media, because we're so like interconnected, there's not the marry your neighbor concept, or there's like not the village of 10 people and you can just choose whichever guy is less stinky than the other or whatever. It's you have so many options, and you think you have so many options because you're so interconnected on your phone that you want to just you want to find a girl who has that trait and that trait and that trait and that trait. And you want her to like fill this picture, this idealistic picture that doesn't exist, where she can do literally everything and you can just kind of just sit back and relax because you found perfection.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
I think that's
So
spot on.
they always think that there's something better. Yeah.
I have different sort of, like, I agree with you. I think a lot of guys are sort of fearful or scared of commitment because of trauma or previous trauma that they've sort of experienced maybe in their family household. That's one sort of reason why why they don't actually commit. Another one, like you said, is that they're looking for this holistic picture or this holistic person, you know, that ticks all their boxes of who they really want. And so as soon as they come to just one deficiency, it destroys the entire sort of idea of commitment. Just takes one, but everything else is perfect. But the whole concept is that you need to find someone to complete you. You yourself aren't, you know, complete. You're actually looking for someone that's going to complete you and become one with you. But the idea for a lot of guys out there is that they're looking for this complete picture. Along comes one issue, they're very fearful. And so it also sort of, you know, hinders them from sort of committing as well. I don't know. You've got.
I was going to say, again, something that I come across that I thought was really cool. So someone once said to actually write a list of things that you really want in your potential partner. And that could look like, you know, I want them to be spiritual, I want them to be successful, I want them to be fit, good looking, whatever it is, right? Like whatever you want in your partner, and actually achieve all these things on that list for yourself first. And I think once you've hit all of that first, then look at outside and try and, you know, look for that perfect person. And the chances are that you'll probably struggle with actually achieving the entire list yourself, you know. So I think to try and be, you know, real about what it is, you know, that is actually most important to you in actually finding somebody is the first point of, you know, point of call in determining who it is that should be partnered up with you. The other thing is that I think people struggle with this idea of compatibility. I think there's short-term compatibility and there's long-term compatibility. And I think people are really stuck on this short-term compatibility and what that looks like. Oh, they like the same things. We go to the same places. We have the same friends. We like the same fashion. We like whatever, the same foods.
Just date yourself.
Pretty much, right? And this idea of long-term compatibility is really in the back burner, and people are not really, you know, entertaining what that would look like and how that looks like in real life with another human being. So I think to kind of like the fact that we've established that this is a phenomenon that people are struggling with commitment, I would encourage people to stop and think, what is it that I'm doing, you know, that I may be doing wrong, you know, in that.
Just thinking of something else, I think guys in general find it hard when it comes to problems. And so as soon as it becomes problematic, or let's put it in the hard basket, it becomes a problem itself, tend to put it in the hard basket and they can't continue. It's too much problems, too much, you know, hard work, too much maintenance. And I think they generally just don't want the maintenance. They don't want to sort of work hard. You know, I think we've lost the drive to sort of fight for our relationships. We've lost the drive to sort of, be committed in that sort of sense. As soon as it becomes hard basket and move away. But, you know, there's minimal people there that, you know, sort of holding on to this relationship, sacrificing for this relationship, you know, putting every single ounce of effort in this relationship. And so as soon as it becomes hard, they tap out. They don't want that. They want the easy way. Everyone's looking for the easy way out now. No one's looking for the hard yards. So as soon as it becomes easy, I'm in. When it becomes hard,
the grass is green on the other side.
Consider me out.
I would just have another question on that. Do you think girls today make it hard for the guy?
You're looking at me?
No. You were just shaking your head, so I just
Look, I think when I speak about all this stuff, I think it's for both genders. I don't think it's gender specific. I think, you know, girls are also struggling, and I think, you know, in the Coptic community, like if girls are trying to find, you know, someone within the, you know, the same faith and the same type of upbringing, you know, that we always talk about this, that the ratio of guys to girls is already hard. So that in itself is already like we're on the back foot, you know, in that regard. let alone trying to find somebody that, you know, is aligned with our thoughts, values, our way of doing stuff, you know. So I think, you know, girls have to, you know, I think they're in a position to try and make it a little bit harder, because if on the other side guys are like scrolling through different girls and they think that, you know, they've got, you know, more opportunity, I guess, to meeting different people, it makes it harder for the girls. So the girls have to naturally go and they have to make it a little bit harder for the guys.
I really like what you said when I'll show you a video first.
Okay.
That aligned with what you said.
Okay.
And I really believe that this is the key for us today. To it shouldn't be, how can I find a good partner? I think that's the wrong question. We're asking the wrong question. It's how can I be the good partner?
Yeah.
Because the verse is saying that Christ died for the church, and we should die for our wives. So we are taking a sacrificial role, but through that role, men, they want to sacrifice. They have a need to be needed.
Yeah.
And so they're happy to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that only comes with, how can I be the good partner?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll show you this video from this priest.
Okay.
One
awesome.
of my favorite videos.
Yeah.
And my friend sent it to me today.
Did you put it up, didn't you?
No.
I wanted to get married when I was 15 years old. And I told my dad, hey, Dad, I want to get married. And he looked at me and goes, He goes, you're too young. I said, well, what are you talking? I felt, you know, a lot of 15-year-olds, they think they're done. They're grown. Yeah. I thought so. I got. You know, I was 6'1" or 2. I'm like, all right. And my dad said, no, maybe 18. Then someone came and they told me, this is what you should do. He goes, you have to decide who you want to marry. I'm like, well, that's a good point. It's a good point. What if my dad had said, yes, man, where do I go? Where do I find this? So this person told me, get out a piece of paper and write down the qualities that you respect in a wife, that you want for your own wife. So that's what I did. I got out a legal piece of paper. I remember it had 33 lines, and I wrote down a quality on every single line. I want her to be trustworthy. I want her to be someone who's devout, someone who prays, not just when I'm around. Like, whether I'm there or not, she has a relationship with God. I'm number 2, not number 1. I want her to love the outdoors. I want her to take care of herself. I want her to read the scriptures faithfully. I mean, I just wrote all the stuff I wanted. And then the person told me, once that's done, take your paper and erase the top, my future wife.
Yeah.
Put your name there. Be those things.
Exactly
That's
what
right.
she was just saying.
Yeah.
In pursuit of those things,
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
will find you your match.
Yeah.
And I think that will solve everything.
100%.
Because if someone has a mentality of, I want to be a good husband, and they find someone, a female, and she says, I want to be a good wife,
Yeah.
that will work almost always.
Yeah. Which is opposite to what the world tells you
Yeah.
about relationships. It's like,
Yeah,
what am
exactly.
I getting out of this relationship?
And I'll show you another video. I sent it to you.
Oh, yeah.
I just have like a hit back though.
Yeah, go.
I just have so often what we hear, like I've heard priests say this, that you can't be selfish for anything except for who you choose as your partner.
Yeah.
Because that's it. Like you're with them. Like this is the one leeway you have to be
it's one
selfish.
huge decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in saying that, like, okay, say I've taken Chris's, and it was actually Tina's advice first. Let's be honest. She said it before. Say I take this advice and I'm absolutely smashing it. Obviously, by saying that, I've probably not smashed the humble line. But let's say I have. Let's say I'm doing all these things and I'm going really well. Right? Should I not expect that from my partner?
That's a good question.
And if so, isn't it naturally just going to be harder to find that person because there's just less so people who are going to tick all of those 36 lines that Abuna was saying?
And I think like a part of that for me is, yes, you want all these things ideally, right? There's an idealistic world, and then there's what are the priorities? Like what are the non-negotiables? So there's non-negotiables and there's negotiables, and that's built on your, from your core values. But I think on that list, I would also encourage to sort of say, what are the non-negotiables on that list? Because whilst they might not have those traits, they might bring other traits to the party or to the relationship that you don't have and you haven't actually listed. And you're so busy looking on that one list that you're missing what they're about and what they bring to the table, you know. And, part of, something that we've discovered in our marriage, that there's so many layers to us as human beings. So even like we don't even know ourselves, as we're walking into a relationship and the potential that God has for each of us. So as we go journey through marriage and through life, those layers become revealed to us individually and to each other as partners. And part of it is patience for that. Like you're not going to have your list, down pat from the word get-go. It's like, I want the perfect pair of shoes. I'm going to look on this website and I'm going to get the right heel and I'm going to get the right point and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work like that. It works that there has to be, like you said, there has to be a humility. There has to be a willingness to actually go journey with this person, to allow them the space to grow, in different ways. And you're walking that journey with them as they're growing, things, who we are today, Abuna and I, very different to when we first met. And, we had to go through our hard yards and our hard ups and downs and all of that. But that's the beauty of journeying together, So it's who you want to do life with, who you want to journey with, who you're ready, when they're going to fall and those 15 or 30 things on that list, maybe 15 of them will drop in the first year of marriage. Are you going to be able to live with them if those qualities drop, you know? So, yeah.
Interesting.
All right. I'll show you another video.
Okay.
You guys tell me what you think. Okay.
Guys, I just came across the most amazing quote about men and relationships that I think every woman should hear. So give me 1 minute of your time and listen to this. The man isn't the prize, the lifestyle is. Because you can find love again, but peace, luxury, freedom, that's what we don't negotiate on. And let's make one thing painfully clear. A man is not your finish line. He's not your purpose. He's not your prize. He is replaceable. The lifestyle you're building, though, the soft life, the financial freedom, the mornings you get to wake up stress-free with sunlight pouring into your luxury apartment and your name on the lease, that's the real trophy. Too many women throw away the whole garden for one rotten apple. They'll give up their dreams, their independence, and their happiness just to be able to say, I have a man. But here's the gag. What's the point of having a man if you've lost yourself in the process? So no, we don't chase men, we don't chase commitment. We build a lifestyle so delicious, so untouchable, that only the most aligned and masculine men dare to approach. So let him ghost, let him go, because love is not rare. But your peace, your freedom, your luxury lifestyle, that is what's sacred. And no man, no matter how fine, how sweet, or how rich, gets to come in and wreck what you bled to build. He's not the prize, darling. He's just the entertainment. The lifestyle is the throne, and you are the queen, and your peace should always be untouchable.
You're really putting him in a very awkward position.
Look, just to put it out there, I disagree.
How do I say this nicely?
I the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, it sounds nice. And I kept watching it. I kept listening to it.
You actually thought it was, I'm very surprised that you thought that.
At the beginning, it's like, oh yeah, this is what.
I think she was using words of peace and
like,
you might
it
sort of be
nice,
drawn to
I
those words.
It's a double-edged sword.
And I read the comments, and all the comments were really positive. Yes, you go, girl. Don't negotiate.
Hype girls.
And I'm like, surely she either deletes the comments, the hate comments, but I think it's. Oh, I'm not going to share what I think.
No,
what do you guys think?
No. Tell us what you think. You already started that sentence.
Look, I was having a conversation with my friend about it, and then he just said, "This is so, it's anti-Christian.
100%.
It's toxic, and she's an influencer, and she's teaching multiple women to think this way. And the way she's posing it is like, I'm going to live my best life, and a masculine man will dare to approach me. You're going to be single for the rest of your life."
As soon as we start using words replace, I think that's the danger in itself, because everything becomes replaceable at what sort of, it's just, anything's disposable. At a drop of a hat, the man's disposable, the friend's disposable, the family's disposable.
Anything's too hard.
Everything's too hard, and we just get rid of straight away. We replace straight away. I don't think that was the intention of Christ, to replace anyone. I think, his intention was that he brings men and women together to unite, to be one. And so I think straight away, as soon as we start to use words such as replace, I think we've lost the intention of what God's intention, his true intention for relationships, for marriages to be.
I think that's our condition these days, just like naturally. I feel like like if you can name me one thing that you've held on to for longer than 5 years,
Mm.
like people don't stay in jobs for 5 years anymore.
Yeah.
People don't.
Loyalty.
Yeah, the loyalty, like no one has
Loyalty's
loyalty
gone.
to
That's
anything.
lost. Yeah.
People get cars every like couple years, phones, like whatever, like just everything. Everything's just quick. And then I think that trickles into relationships in my
100%.
opinion.
Yeah. I think when she talks about like, you know, man is not your prize or your trophy. And I think from a Christian perspective, we think about why, like when I was saying, why two people would choose to come together. The real trophy at the end is actually heaven. That's the whole point of us coming together. So if we're talking about trophies of the world, then we're going to get, you know, quickly diverted on very different paths and get hurt and be exposed to the world's way of, you know, dysfunction, I guess. But I think if we got our eye on the prize, which is heaven, which is Christ, and that's what we're striving towards, that's why we're sacrificing, we're coming together, we're being united together, then we're not gonna lose out. We're not gonna experience, you know, what she's talking about.
Yeah. Someone commented, right, and they said this. They said, I was like, what are your thoughts? One person said, yes. She's agreeing. Many men prioritize looks in finding a wife. Why can't women do the same with cha-ching, 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 money?
money. So men look at looks.
Yes.
Why can't women look at money? Yeah.
I think we're possibly generalizing here. You know, there are men that are always going to look at looks. Yes, so there's going to be that initial attraction. But I think if we just stop at that, we're going to fall short. We're actually hurting ourselves, hurting the relationship, the intention of the relationship. So I think there's got to be much more thought given. There's deepness to what we're actually talking about. I think we're talking here superficially. We're talking about just things on the surface. But I think, again, going back to God's origin, his intention, what he wants us to look and how he wants us to view this topic, I think it's much, much more deeper than just looks. And if we're just going to keep it at the surface, well, we're going to follow the world and what the world and how the world views this. This is a worldly view rather than a Christian view.
Yeah.
I was going to say men, well, it's funny because at book club we were talking about this last night. Generally, men are wired to look for, you know, to experience autonomy and independence. Women are after security and safety. And so I think if a woman's looking, you know, to get to know a man and assessing, you know, is this person going to be helping to provide and to contribute and to all of that, and it's contextual to this, I don't think there's any harm in looking at, you know, what does this person do? How can we work out, well, you know, a certain lifestyle that we're both striving to have and things like that. But I think if that is the primary focus and everything else falls off the wayside, and the entire attention is on how much is this person making, what are they doing, what am I getting out of that? Again, it's like what I was saying, it's a very superficial way of looking at connecting with another human being.
Today they're making millions of dollars. Tomorrow they might be bankrupt.
That's right.
It's just,
And that's exactly right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to show you another video.
You love showing us videos.
No, so this is actually very nice though. It's very nice, and I don't think this can happen today. And I want to see what you guys think about it. If you advise a girl to go for someone like this in today's world, okay?
If you're a man and you're working really hard, there's nothing more beautiful than being a man that works hard, makes it on his paycheck, and he gets to take it home and give that money to his wife because his wife is raising his children and taking care of their beautiful home, and everyone is happy.
Yeah.
That's it.
And these days, we have to make a special accommodation. It's not as easy for young people to do what you were just describing as it used to be when I was young.
Right.
I mean, when I was young, it was much easier to be able to get a decent job, bring home an honest paycheck, and have a small home and raise your family. These days, especially in this state, it's very difficult, and we have to be extremely creative. Couples are living together, parents are having kids in their garages and these types of things. But I say to them, look, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, don't think your happiness is conditioned on having all of those things.
Right.
That's not the case. Christ in your life, you have a wife, you're a rich man.
Yes,
when I got married, I was broke.
Yeah.
I was absolutely broke. I've always taken my wife out on a date on Monday nights. We used to go out and all we could get was one cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But we shared it. we would walk, we would hold our pinkies together, and we would just pass the cup back and forth. I felt like I was the richest man
so
in the
cute.
universe.
You
I felt
were.
like a king.
You were.
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
That's how I felt, and that's how I am. No money, no house. We lived in an apartment with 400 square feet.
Father, don't make me cry now. That's beautiful. Stop. That's beautiful.
You cry?
I think there's a verse in the Bible that says a good wife is more valuable than rubies and jewels. Yeah. So I think any guy would be so happy to be broke and find a girl like that.
Yeah.
But in the modern world today, would you ever advise a woman to go for a brokey?
I think it's very hard to be a broke in this country that we live in. I think, look, I think, like I said, I think there's, for women, like it's a sense of security. I think there's two different types of women. There's, someone that I want to build with you. I want to work to build you up together, and we work hard together. And there's a woman that's, what are you going to give me? What am I going to get out of this? So I think to assess intention is really important. So I think the not to chuck a spanner in the works when you meet someone, you're like, if I'm broke, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to still sit beside me? And if not, oh, you must be, blah, blah, blah.
Gold digger.
Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly. But all these labels like gold digger, brokey, like all these labels, like, you know what I mean?
Can I be honest? Yeah. Like when I met Tina, she told me she was a social worker. I had no idea what a social worker was. I didn't even know.
Lady, we don't make enough
Let
money.
me socialize with you.
But
Now it's a
it wasn't
Google
about
search.
for me. It wasn't about like what you were doing, but it was far deeper. It has to be deeper. This is this is foreverness. This is we're going to walk to heaven together. We're in it for the long haul all the way. So I think regardless of the person's situation or state, you love them for who they are. And I think if you're able to sort of do that, I think you will be successful. You won't depend on the riches of the world. You won't be reliant on what the world is offering, because you have far greater things to sort of lean on. So for me personally, I think look at it in that perspective, that lens.
Yeah,
I feel like there's like a couple like quick fire questions just for practical advice for people that are just curious to hear you guys' thoughts on. One of them is, what do you think's like the correct progression of dating? Like, should we just throw everything into it at once and then leave it? Or is it more of a like ask your confession father question? Like how I'm traveling, is it an age appropriate thing? Is it, because I know some people just like, as you did, 5 days a week, let's get to know each other. But I know for some people that's probably not the right.
And I think every couple's different. I think it's hard to say like this is, the formula, that everybody should run on. I think you're right. I think age is a very important factor. I think, readiness, willingness to sacrifice, knowledge of your self-awareness. I think, all these are sort of prerequisites first to sort of see where you're at first and what you're willing to give before you start thinking about somebody else. And I think definitely engaging your confession father, if someone comes on the horizon, to actually ask even the closest people around you, what are they sort of seeing? Are they, if that's something that you feel comfortable in doing. Abuna, like I said, always, Abuna prayed a lot. Like when he approached me, he was like, look, man, I've prayed this much. I know. And he actually said on our first date, he goes, you're the girl I'm going to marry. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. He said it went from what's your favorite color to, hey, where are we having our wedding reception?
Wow. That was like my dad, actually. It works.
But I think, on the back of what Tina's saying, I think it's important also before all this to enjoy life and to understand who you are. Like, I'm going to say this enjoy being single. It's fine. It's okay. I think sometimes we want to rush. We want to jump the gun. But we haven't experienced life. We need to culture ourselves. We need to travel. We need to understand who we are through all these things. I think there is no rush. Enjoy this chapter. Not to say that marriage isn't enjoyable. It's beautiful in its own right. But in order to experience marriage in the correct way, we need to enjoy our single life as well, in completeness as well. So I think it's important as well.
Awesome. Another question, is getting on with the in-laws important? In my personal opinion, yes.
100%.
100%.
But I think I guess it's not a preference thing. Apparently,
You must get along.
Just because my brother-in-law comes to our place like once a week. Sometimes twice a week. I couldn't imagine a worse thing if twice a week I was going to a house where I just didn't want to be. And that's my in-laws. So
100%.
I think, look, naturally it's going to take time to sort of get to understand your in-laws. So let's be honest, let's be raw. Everyone comes from a different upbringing. And I think when you do, you sort of realize, you know, how you can sort of work with this person, how you can sort of interact with this person better. You know, I think it's important to be able to do that. I think it's going to take long. We need to sort of understand that. But I think once you sort of put that effort and once you understand the person in front of you and understand their intentions, you'll see goodness in everything. So I think we definitely have to. I mean, you are marrying into the family as well. You're not just marrying the opposite, but you're marrying into their family. So I think it's very, very important.
I think people think it happens organically, and it's like, oh, you know, if I get in and everything just falls into place and it's all happy families and we're all immediately best friends. And I think, like Abuna was saying, it has to have it has to happen progressively, because it's more real, it's raw, it's more authentic. You know, it takes time to build and get to know not just your partner, but their whole life and all the family and the members that belong, you know, to their family. And it's all relationship building. So when you're assessing if you're ready, you're not just assessing to you know, you're ready to get to know one person. You're also getting to know their village. Like, you know, we went to Egypt 2 years ago, and I was so excited to take Abuna back to where I was born, where I lived, my unit.
School.
I went to my school, and you know, like, and it was like for me to share that part of me with him was so cool, like, you know. And I was like, oh, this is where I used to play, you know, after I come home from school, the falhara. And that's, you know, that's important, like to be willing to not just accept the person in isolation, but their entire world. And that's going to take time and willingness and commitment. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. It's just like I'll throw it on to Chris. Why not? So family expectations. So in our culture, the term ogbalak.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what that means you're next. but it's in the sense of
may God.
May you be? People say it at weddings.
Yeah.
And it's you're next. Chris ogbalak, Mr. Ogbalak.
Yeah. How do you handle that?
So our families want to get. Okay, I understand it though, because like in the sort of Egyptian, Sudanese kind of culture, it's like your parents view marriage as success. Yeah. So it's like we want you to succeed. Yeah. So yalla, get married.
Yeah. And then they cry.
Exactly, when you leave the house. How do we manage like our parents' expectations? And also, I think this one would be good for you guys to comment, like to all the parents who are putting that pressure on their kids, because there are definitely parents that listen. What would you give to their advice?
I think parents come from a good place. Like I think they mean well. I think they just want the best for their children. I think let's be real. No parent wants the worst for their children, but the very best for their children, including getting married. I mean, like you said, they see marriage as a success. They see marriage as beautiful. They want grandchildren. There's a lot of benefits for everyone in this, you know. They get a new daughter or a new son. They get grandchildren. So there's a lot of benefits to it. So we've got to look at it in a beautiful way. So I think from that perspective, I always believe that they're coming from goodness, I think. But I think at the same time, there is pressure. You know, the son or the daughter might sort of not be in a particular good position, or they might not be ready. Yeah, or they might just, you know, might not have come across Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. So I think we need to sort of be in tune with our sons and daughters. I think we need to sort of understand where they're at in life, be in tune with them. I think it's so important. I think, you know, we can say it, but I think without the pressure, without the expectation, without the making them feel that they missed the boat, without them making feel that they need to sort of hurry it up or else. So I think there's already a lot of pressure in society. We're all under pressure. And adding that type of pressure to your son and daughter might not be the the best thing ever. Might not be the right thing. Yeah.
I'm curious. Do you get like parents come up to you, Abuna, and say, "Yalla, marry my daughter, marry my son"?
Yeah. Look, again, like
He does.
I do. But I think again they come from goodness. They come from a place of they want the very best for their children. But I think at the same time, we always advise that we're waiting for God's will, and I think they need to find the perfect person, the right person that's going to complete them. I don't want to sort of say this word settle, but we don't want to rush someone to find someone for the sake of finding someone and then realize later that this was the wrong thing altogether. We don't want to put that kind of a pressure or apply that kind of a pressure. I think it's important that we walk the journey with, our sons and daughters at church, help them where we can, give them hope, give them, be with them in this journey, empower them, and make them just generally feel that they're not by themselves. I think sometimes it becomes a lonely world. I think sometimes we feel that everyone else is married off and I'm by myself and moved on. Where do I stand? The pressure's on. What do I do? And that people start to crumble. We don't want them to feel like that in that state. That's the worst thing possible. So we need to be there for people, support them, walk the journey with their families. It's hard as it is. So yeah.
There's two more sort of points that I want to bring up, and I'm respectful of your guys' time.
No.
So one of them is, okay. So the first one we can talk about, I guess, is breakups. Yeah. Actually, we'll do that after. But first, like physical touch, especially in dating. I think it's maybe more taboo topic.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that exactly.
Yeah.
In dating, so we're not married. What's the sort of, so first of all, like obviously you guys are going to say like, okay, no, in terms of like,
I think that's a very excellent question actually, because no one talks about this. So no one knows parameters. No one knows right from wrong. No one knows and then what happens is, people get married, and because you get told certain things for so long, so you continue to think this is all impure and so wrong, and and then no one's talking on this stuff, and you don't know who to go to. So I think it's a very valid question, but I think, I think, and it's tricky because it is a taboo topic, and this is a podcast.
Yeah.
But I think, look, a couple of things. One, two people need to be conversing on, parameters, limitations, what purity looks like to each person. I think engaging a confession father that you actually connect with and talk to is so important, to be really real and ask those questions as well. I think, at the end of the day, the crux and the bottom line is we have to be pure. We have to maintain our chastity before that's the bottom line. There's no two ways about it. But everything else before it is so grey. So the grey areas have to be discussed, I think, between the two people, and have to be taken to their confession, like discussed even in the presence of somebody that they really trust, like a confession father or a spiritual guide. And that needs to be talked about more, because people that go on with no parameters can go all directions,
I agree.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Smart.
Just in terms of that, like, okay, to someone listening, like, and just who listened to what you said, like I know how people think, and they'll take it as, the gray area. So like she's saying, like, there's a bit of like leeway here. Like I can, like, kissing, or like whatever, like chilling with each other at hours where the sun's not up. Things like this.
To be more definitive. So I guess, like I'm saying, if the bottom line is to maintain purity, I think anything that takes away from that, and I think we know ourselves, like we're not, we hope to be in a stage where when we're with somebody that we're trying to get to know for marriage, that we're preparing ourselves in all forms, right? So I think if you are placing yourself in positions where, you know, like you're saying, late nights and alone and darkness, and 1 + 1 = 2. Like, you know what I mean? So I think you're placing yourself in a situation where that's going to be taken away. But I think to be able to have a conversation together with your partner about what is it that wouldn't be taking away from that purity, but you still, because human to human, you want connection, you want, you know, there's interaction, there's, you know, you want to tell the person in front of you when you see a friend, you want to take them, you know, you want to hug, but then it's like, is a hug, like, what does that mean? Like, you know, like, so I think we need to be more raw in we need to be more raw in our relationships, even about something like this. You know, what is the parameters that we're trying to set? Like we talk about, you know, respect, for example. You know, don't talk to me this way. That sounds disrespectful, whatever. But if you know, when it comes to physical touch, what are the parameters of that? What is your boundaries? What is his boundaries? And, you know, how does that work together?
Yeah. Abun, I'm curious to what you think of. So why? Like why? Just because God told me not to? Like for me, that's not enough.
I think, look, you know, we know when we're going to sort of do the wrong thing. And I think to eliminate that, there has to be some sort of boundary. There has to be a boundary. And I think at the same time, we're preserving each other's purity. We're safeguarding each other by setting the boundary. I think it's so important. And like Tina said, I think it's important to be guided as to what we can do versus what we can't do in a relationship. If we leave it open-ended, there could be regrets. And who knows, like sometimes relationships don't continue. And what if, you know, we sort of, you know, exceeded that boundary and the relationship didn't, you know, continue? Where do I stand? Where does she stand? So I think it's important to always set the boundary. The boundary has to be clear, that it's definitive, in order to help us, in order to protect us, in order to set our path straight, to have the right vision, the right goal, in order to, you know, go to the next stage. I think.
Yeah. I have 2 thoughts.
Yeah.
So one thing that I heard was that, like, if you imagine like physical touch within a relationship, or let's say sex, like in the sense of marriage, it's like 2 pieces of wood, and you like stick them together, you screw them together, they're together, they're one, they're now one piece of wood. When you go to break that piece of wood, it's not like just a nice and easy, like, oh,
yeah,
my apart. 2 pieces of wood.
Yeah.
It's more like there's like shards of each, and it's like
things
broken
getting
apart.
ripped up.
Yeah, things are getting ripped up, and there's like bits of you left behind, and it's like it's rugged. It's quite a bad picture. That's like my first thought. And then the second thing is, and I feel like this was the best thing that convinced me, was that when physical touch is brought into the picture, you get blind, like
all the other stuff.
To all the other stuff, like you
lose focus of the intent of
exactly.
You know,
I brought up Paul once said, and I'll never forget this. Actually, he said that a relationship could last three months or 3 years, depending on physical touch.
100%.
It could have ended in 3 months, but because it got physical, it took 3 years.
And is he saying that because like you're disregarding all the bad things that are happening because you have that sort of like rose tinted glasses?
It's now no longer about love; it's more about other things.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And
you form a bond.
And there's a discernment of lust versus. That's why, like, I think when you talk about physical touch, like people's meaning of that looks very different. You know, from like, you know, holding hands versus, you know, other things. You know, so it's having those real conversations. It's being able to. Are we going to walk around like side by side, and are we cool with that? Are we comfortable with that? You know, or you know, how is it that we're going to, I don't know, like connect that way? Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. This is like the last sort of.
I'm scared that this actually is. Are we going to get in trouble?
Probably.
No.
Probably.
You won't get in trouble.
You might get a phone call from the dishwasher.
I want his Galabea to be on at the end of this.
Okay. This is something that I think is like, I've never heard anyone speak about this.
Yeah.
But it's something that genuinely especially with guys, happens a lot. Okay. So I know, and it's kind of like an unwritten rule, and I'm sure guys would have said it to you, and it's like, it kind of goes over our heads. So pretty much it's like, okay, in the church scenario, a guy will come up to me and say like, oh, I'll be like, oh, what do you think about that girl? And he'll be like, oh, I'm not too sure. And then I'll say, oh, what do you think about that girl outside of the church completely? And he'll be more inclined to go for her, not because of any other reason except for in church, there are so many eyes on me. And if this relationship doesn't work out, my reputation and the way I look to everyone else is going to be tainted, and I can't go for any other girl in that church. I have to leave the church, go somewhere else.
Wow.
That's like the extrapolation, but that's like what they think. Whereas,
but if you take that realistically, we would hope that the girl wouldn't tell people, but she probably would.
I guess it's with the thought that like if this gets into serious or just things in general, that multiple people will see. But there's like that sense of
strong judgment that
it's a strong and like I feel like a lot of it's sad as well, because there will be girls that are just great for guys and they're just scared because they don't want to. They're scared of the breakup, and if the breakup happens, then it's all hell breaks loose. Like it's like,
and is this like, are you referring to like a serious relationship that's broken down, or are you talking about, like how, like,
yeah, I mean, I guess
like trying to understand how youth might think.
Well, I guess it's a bit of both. Well, in the sense that like
they're scared to sort of express their opinions about people within the church versus outside the church.
With
before
outside,
they commit.
Yeah, with outside the church, they can get to know a girl, and then if it doesn't work out, they'll just stop. It's fine. And there's no sort of strings attached. Whereas if they get to know a girl at church, it's like, oh, I'm talking to Carlos.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and then now that my friend Kira over here is talking to her, he feels like he has to stay because okay, now
he doesn't want to be judged by the wider community.
Exactly. And like it's
I think the whole, I think we need to be honest. This is a lifetime commitment. I think that was the intent of engagement, was to get to know each other, to get to understand each other. And I think the more that we can be real with each other and honest with each other, know that we're compatible for each other or not. And I think one other thing that, if I can give some advice, is sometimes we need to, my confession father would say, "Nadari ala shamatna," in a sense that sometimes these kinds of things need to be covered or concealed for a while until we're sure that the relationship is, strong, the relationship is heading in the right direction. I think sometimes we get so excited that the world needs to know straight away, but then we realize that possibly this might not be the right person. So I think before we do certain things, we need to, be praying about this. We really need to sort of be on our knees asking God for His guidance, for His providence, to understand what's if this relationship is good for me or not good for me. And we secondly need to sort of be honest and real before we start to talk. And I think this is where guys might sort of feel like, intimidated, and hence why they go outside, because no one sort of sees them or no one knows much about what they're doing outside versus, all eyes are on them at church. They feel that they can't sort of be who they are at church. So I think, there's nothing wrong in sort of looking within the church. But I think we need to do it in such a way that we're protecting one another, we're getting to know one another. And I think we need to sort of be walking with our spiritual father, our confession father, being guided step by step and making sure that this is the right thing for both of us. I think that's so, so important. There's nothing wrong in sort of finding someone within the church, but within these parameters. I think going out and trumpeting that I'm in a relationship, that's where it's going to fall over. Expect that everyone's going to sort of know, and then you feel stuck. How am I going to get out of this relationship? This person's going to talk about me. This person's going to speak about me. You feel very intimidated. So you don't know what to do. Whereas outside, no one knows much. So,
two things. One thing Abuna Paul said once, said, go for it anyway in hope that they don't share anything. Because, for example, that guy might be a bit worried because he might try to
Is that a real guy?
No, it's not. I just thought of the most Coptic name.
He might go try to ask his girl out, and then the girl like, oh, look, he asked me out. Look, screenshot or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is we just hope that they wouldn't. And you have to go with that mentality. If they do,
look, there's always
doesn't
going to be a
matter.
risk. Like I think in any relationship that you walk into, there's always going to be a level of risk. Like, and we can't avoid that risk is going to happen. But I think this is a wider community thing where we got to stop the judging stuff.
For sure.
And I think that's an issue on its own kind of thing. I think people are scared even more so with commitment because I'm like going to be judged. There's all these other sort of layers to this. It's not just me getting to know this person, working out, are we compatible? Is this going to work out? No, there's like all these other sort of stuff, you know, it becomes a domino effect after that. But I think, you know, and it starts with our circles around us, like, you know, how we talk about a girl, how you pray first about, you know. So I think I say about that because I'm not excellent at prayer, but this guy was praying beforehand and he's like, you know, so I experienced that firsthand. So I think if you're going to be the priest of your home one day, I think that's a place to start, you know, to actually, before you approach a girl, you know yourself, know that you've prayed, get some sort of peace within yourself, being able to study, you know, who she is as a person, approach her, and then, you know, have these conversations about who we're going to tell, you know, kind of thing. And
I think if your intention's good, you won't worry about anything. If your intention's pure, you've got the right intention, the right outlook, I don't think you're going to worry about what the other person's going to say.
Yeah, it's true.
in the Bible, it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So imagine that guy's scared. It might be you, it might be whoever, it might be me.
He's sharing his truths.
Yeah, no, imagine.
This is the exposing
Imagine
part.
you're scared and God's like, yeah, here you go. And like, no, I'm scared. I'm scared to be judged.
But you said you don't care anyway about people's
Oh,
opinions.
yeah, this was
so-
before the podcast. I was saying that. I actually don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because
I
like,
care either, to
I
be
think
honest.
we're in I think society, this idea of people pleasing that we were talking about earlier, because we're trying to look a certain image or trying to uphold a certain image in front, like we're the great Christian, we're the great this, we're the great that, and anything that takes away possibly from that, strips us away from some sort of power or image or.
Well, I guess the reason why I just don't care what people think about me, the reason is just because the way I see it is if I'm just myself in every situation, I'll just attract the people who are attracted to me.
Yeah, and that's
and
awesome
then all
thing.
the rest can bye-bye. It's okay.
See you
I don't
later.
care.
It's good.
Yeah, that's just my own, my only reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, if someone comes to you, Abuna, or you're a counselor, so this probably has happened to you, and they've just gone out of a pretty terrible breakup and they're distraught, what would be your advice to that person?
I think it's becoming whole again, because I think it's when you're hurting and you're open, your wounds are opened, you're trying to look for a way to kind of become whole again within yourself. And that looks, that is something that someone needs to do from all angles, becoming whole again. And that's, becoming, grounding themselves again in God, being able to find themselves, in the things that they enjoy doing, in the friends, in the circles, social, emotional, physical, like exercise, things like that. Being able to engage with the things, that can sort of help them repair and help them heal again. And I think a lot of, people walk away from breakups blaming themselves or, feeling like they've stuffed up somewhere or, their self-worth is below zero because, this person's, been rejected or something like that. So I think being able to talk to people that know you the best, to remind you that you are very worthy and that you are, to talk through the things that may have happened in the relationship, to unpack that with somebody that you trust, to be able to see insight that is different to what you've walked away with. So I think a lot of repair and healing is so important. A lot of, reflection on what you would take away from the relationship, what you might do different, where things went wrong. And I think people walk away generally from breakups, walking away thinking, oh my God, I've walked away with so many learnings, and I would choose someone completely different based on this, or I would do things very differently next time.
Yep.
And that's all okay, and that's all positive, and it's strength that you're walking away with.
Yeah, for sure. Abuna, someone comes to you.
I think it's important to understand them and their situation. I think it's important to sort of help them, pick them up. Sometimes, breakups they vary. Some are sort of easier breakups, some are very difficult breakups, depending. And so each sort of breakup is, unique in its own way. And I think understanding the person, being there, walking beside them, giving them strength, giving them hope. I think sometimes a lot of people lose hope. They think that's it, it's finished, it's over. But I think it's so important to give them hope. And I think, what Tina was saying, that I think there needs to be that healing first. That healing to restore them, to help them, to spiritually guide them. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that like the way you said it was perfect in the sense that it's like an opportunity to turn back to Christ and fill that hole with something that's better. Arguably, it depends. Like obviously you still have Christ in your life during a relationship, but I also think that like that breakup is less of a big tear, like the wood, if that physical side's not a part of it.
Not involved, yeah.
Or if like, because I know it's hard for a lot of people. I know some like young people who will get into a relationship straight out of school, be in that relationship for a few years, and they don't know what life is like. But I think without the partner,
I think sometimes
100%.
we look at it as lessons learned in life, and I think these experiences make us better as people.
For sure,
we learn more about ourselves even through breakups. We understand who we are. And so we look at life in a very, very different way, in a very different view. So sometimes looking at it in a positive way, easier said than done, but brings out the best in us. We'll sort of consider what was good about this relationship versus what was bad. What would I do differently, like Tina said before? So I think sometimes also looking at it in a positive lens rather than just totally negative, I think is very, very important.
But also to allow a period of grief. I think when there's a breakup, people don't realize that it's a huge loss, and it's like you said, there's a void, and so there needs to be an allowance to grieve the relationship, to grieve the things that it was attached to. A lot of people attach meaning to the relationship, that this was my chance to get married and to have kids and to move forward, and so they're not just losing the person, they're losing all the associations that they've made, with
the future, with
that
person.
the future, or the what they've built in their mind about it. And so, like I said, when you sit with trusted people to unpack all of that and to actually, like I want to say, restore hope again, that no, you haven't lost these things. It's just this person is not the suited person for you, and that these things are still available and still accessible to you, but maybe with somebody that is more aligned with you and with your, values, your needs, whatever it is,
For sure. Definitely agree. Any questions, Chris? No, it was actually funny. Like just like as a last thing, we had a talk at church. It was on Genesis, and it's a chapter that you just never even
think through.
Yeah. It was Father Carolus Farag, and it was on like Sarah's burial, like when Sarah was buried. And anyway, he was talking about like how they were honoring her and all of these things. And then he went in the biggest tangent, like crazy tangent.
Yeah.
And he was talking about relationships and all of these things. Then he kept on going. And then he got to a point, and it was inside the church in front of the altar. And he just pointed at Christ, and he was just like, Sarah was just like him. And that was it. He was just like, if you want to find a partner, just be like him. And then that's it.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? Facts.
Yeah,
like,
that's
the simplicity.
Image of God.
That's the simplicity.
Yeah.
Like if you just want to like break it down to like it's fine trimmings, it's just be Christ.
Yeah.
And everything will be good. Like don't worry about all of it. Just do that, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That stuck with me for sure.
100%.
And then everything falls in line. Yeah. Okay.
I think we need to stop complicating
All
the
of it.
checklist.
Yeah.
And we need to go back to simplifying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girls have a list of icks.
Yeah.
So
It's,
they have like 200. I saw them
don't
scrolling
know.
past this. It's like if he goes and runs after a bus, it's an ick, meaning
Yeah.
what is an
that-
ick meaning again?
an
Sorry.
ick is
Not
like
good.
no,
No,
it's
no,
good.
no.
Oh,
listen.
okay.
An ick
I'm
is
out.
like-
Get in touch
I'm
with the
outdated.
modern.
How do you explain it?
It's just like it's like something small that kind of just turns you off
Yeah.
from the
Ah,
guy.
okay.
I know someone who
Okay.
has an ick. It's like
heard
chewing
that,
loud. Like that would be
Yeah.
like the most like common
Yeah,
ick.
yeah, yeah.
I know a girl who has an ick when a guy drives with like 2 hands.
Oh, wow.
So like 10 and 12.
Imagine that being on the checklist. He drives with 2
10
Yes,
hands.
you have a manual. Otherwise,
Yeah.
off my
Yeah.
list.
Off my list.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, some people have some crazy
Yeah,
icks.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I just drive automatic. So
You know what? One time we were playing soccer. Okay, all the guys were playing soccer, and the girls were like, "If you watch them long enough, they all just give me the ick."
Are you serious? Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
because one might do some clumsy move here and there. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like chasing off their boss. Yeah, it's something like that. Anyway.
That's hardcore.
yeah, it's hardcore. But
Yeah.
whatever, bro.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But do you guys talk like amongst you, like the guys and girls, like do you talk about this stuff? Like is it, because I remember in our youth group growing up, right? This was the funnest thing on a Friday night to do.
Yeah.
We'd all sit in a circle, and if any of my friends are listening to this, you know who you are. We'd all sit like, as a youth group, and everyone would be like, oh, like what do you look for in a future partner?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
everyone would go around in the circle and name something, and what was your first impression of this person or this, and it was just really
100%.
eye-opening conversation. And it was just like the coolest conversation. And we get together now. We all have families and kids and whatever. Like, do you remember how we used to sit back after youth, and sit and talk about this stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like, is that how you guys
100%.
talk? Yeah.
What's it called? At St. Barbara's Church on
Yeah.
a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Back in the day is like maybe like 2 years ago. I'm 22.
Back in the heyday.
I'm 22.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
I'm still young. Anyway, what's it called? We have something called canteen chats.
Yeah.
And after the talk, we'd sit in the canteen, and it's exactly what
The
you're
best
talking
conversations.
about. And then I'm not going to name names, but someone who's extremely tall would come in and just destroy everyone. He was a bit older, and he's
Let me
just
guess, Andrew?
yeah.
You just gave it away.
Yeah,
It's extremely tall.
He's extremely tall. He's the only tall guy in the whole
Yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, what's it called? Yeah, and it was always fun. Like everyone would come just for canteen
best.
chats.
Yeah.
To the point where some of the people were talking about, let's make a podcast called Canteen Chats.
That's
and
actually
all
mad.
these
That's a
things.
cool.
Yeah.
But would you say like people are aligned in their way of thinking as you
Yeah.
like
well,
as you
and-
talk on this
And
stuff?
I think people get refined in their way of thinking. And it's
Yeah.
also good to just like understand. It's like cool to understand people's
Yeah,
views
yeah.
on it and why they think those things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
No,
That's
that's awesome.
awesome.
All right. We'll end with a question for the next speaker.
Okay.
Do you know who it is?
Well, last time I said on Abuna Antonius's, I was like, I'm going to make a prophecy. And because you guys weren't really responding, I was like, wasn't sure. I was like, oh, I'm just going to guess it's you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prophecy.
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
No, that's a tough one. I honestly don't know who the next one is. Someone did confirm for August, but this was 3 months ago and he's very busy. So I don't know if
Okay.
that's still going ahead.
So just any question. Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, you know what?
What's the topic?
I don't know. Actually, I don't even know the next topic.
Actually, this is our last episode, guys.
Including.
Gosh, that's a lot of pressure.
No.
Okay, let's just start off. If you were to leave a question for the next guest, what would you leave?
Yeah.
Any kind of question?
Any kind of question.
Look, it might be. Abuna Sam, maybe. And I want to talk about music.
Oh,
That's interesting.
yes.
That's what I want to do.
No, but
we'll
now
find out.
if they
What
give-
music does he listen to? And I'm sure it's not Ibrahim Ayed.
No, I don't think that, like secular music, the dangers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know if I should share it now.
Yeah,
I
do what you
don't
want.
listen to music, so I just want to hear
That's
his- And I
outrageous.
think he gave a
He
sermon on
listens to
music.
Al-Hayy.
Anyways, that's none of the. Anyways.
Anyway,
So-
general question.
Yeah.
Question. because
Not
we're
music
really sure.
related.
Anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Whatever
I
you
don't
want.
know.
That's really hard, guys. Being
Could be
put on
anything.
spot.
Could be anything. It can be like, oh, what did you eat for breakfast? Or it can
Okay.
be like, I can think of a question. Let me think of something.
Abuna, what are you really suffering with in church? And you would ask a priest a question.
I think the challenges in the next 50 years as a church, I guess my question would be, how do we, I know this is very broad, but it's always on my mind, how do we sort of maneuver through the challenges of what society is, let me repeat. Yeah, throwing at us. I guess how to maneuver through the next 50 years. We've been around, say, 50 years as a church in Australia. Next 50 years, what does it look like? How do we maneuver through these challenges? How do we sort of keep, I guess, the faithful coming to church within these challenges? I think there's a lot of work, there's a lot of thought that needs to go into this. The next 50 years is, for me personally, going to be challenging. 50 years has passed, great success in the church.
Specifically in Sydney, or saying Australia?
I think, say Australia.
Yeah.
But what the next 50 years looks like, the challenges, how we overcome those challenges, I guess would be my question.
Awesome.
I think it's so important that we need to embrace what's to come and think about what's to come and be ahead of what's to come.
Awesome question.
Interesting.
Tina?
Society's challenges, like you mean, like things that society or culture throws at us.
Yeah.
And how does the church, I guess, survive, with all these ever-changing societal things that are happening, and how does the church protect the future generations and the kids that are coming up? In this culture, we sit with a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty
clergy
about
and parents.
Clergy, parents, and we're punching in the dark a lot of the time. So how does the church, I guess, find a way to survive in that culture and society, but at the same time maintain its authenticity and traditions and like
awesome.
Yeah, nice. I do know though the church, the Coptic church, and also other churches, it's already on a rise. It's really on a rise because 10 years ago, and I was saying this yesterday to someone, I was so scared to say I go to church when I was in high school.
Yeah,
it was just it's just a weird thing to say. To the point where when I was in uni, I was scared to say I go to church.
Yeah.
And I was forbidding my friends who found out I go to church to come to church. I was like, can I come to church? Like, no, you're not coming to church. It's weird because everyone's Egyptian.
Yeah.
Now we have lots of mixed.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Which is awesome, yeah.
This was never a case 10 years ago.
No, 100%.
This was, now I was sitting with a group of people on Sunday, and all Coptic Orthodox, and the majority weren't Egyptian.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful thing when that happens.
So nice.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, like of recent in the last couple of years, being able to watch that, to watch other people embrace our faith and love our faith even more than us, and know know our traditions and know our Bible. It's a service for us, and I think it kind of humbles us to kind of think, where we've been given this on a silver platter, but there's someone else that's actually embracing it by their own accord and loving it even more so than us sometimes,
But in saying that, there are going to be challenges. What are those challenges, and how do we sort of, I guess, I don't want to say embrace, but how do we sort of work with those challenges?
Yeah.
As a church, collectively, how do we sort of get by those challenges? I think it's important to sort of, hit the nail on the head.
Awesome. Spectacular. Thank you guys so
hopefully
much.
I find a wife in the next 6 months.
Just pray.
You better invite us to your wedding.
Yeah.
You came on a wedding on Sunday.
Yes.
I remember actually, sorry to keep this going, but we prayed a mass, Wednesday morning mass, for this around 2-3 years ago.
What?
Oh, wow.
Do you remember?
What do you mean?
We went out for coffee.
For this couple, you mean?
For this couple?
Yeah. Well, I just joined this friend.
You just invited yourself.
Yeah, I just invited myself.
Oh, I had no idea.
No.
I know he rocked up. Was it at our parish?
Yeah.
I remember. He came at our parish.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he did. He actually did tell me. He said, pray for me, I'm seeing a girl.
Yes.
I really remember.
That's
So
cute.
he came and prayed.
beautiful.
Wednesday
And then-
morning liturgy,
yeah.
5 to 7.
Yeah.
And we went out and he spoke to me.
At the middle.
And, and this weekend, like I was saying before, I was really under the pump. So much going on. And this particular person had texted me several times saying, please, I'd love to have you at my wedding. And it really, his, perseverance, his persistence in messaging me, even though I was so busy and I had engagement back at church, made an effort to go and, be there. And it was beautiful. Like, I was so happy for him, his beautiful wife, their families, the entire church. It was, it was beautiful to see the entire church from Abraham there.
Yeah. It was a whole missing day out of my mind. Then when I saw you at the wedding, I was like, I remember
good
I
memory.
went to a morning mass.
You got such a good memory.
Yeah.
That's
No,
awesome.
he has selective memory.
Let's be real.
If you want to get married, go to a morning mass with Abuna Anthony Wednesday morning
pray.
and get a coffee at the Miller.
And on your first date, say, I prayed for this and we're
I
getting
swear,
married.
as you were saying that, that's the thought I was like. He was like, this guy's praying. Like, it must be
Yeah.
from God.
My dad did the same thing. He would walk like across all of Sudan
Aww.
and just to see my mum. And like my mum at the time was like talking to someone.
Yeah.
And then he was just like, and then the second like they broke up, he's like, so when are we getting married? And she's like, bro, I don't even know you. But here I am.
That's so cute.
So,
I love those stories.
yeah, it's
They're actually the best stories.
The best.
Yeah.
Actually, anyone
They had
watching.
it right, man.
Yeah. Anyone watching, go to your uncles and aunties who you're close
Yes.
to and just
Tetas
ask,
and
and just ask them how they got married. It's the best like
That's the
relationship
formula.
building. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Thank you for
Thanks,
coming
guys.
on.
Thanks, guys, for having
Thanks for
us.
having us.
Really, really appreciate
Thanks,
it. God bless
guys.
you. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thanks, guys.
Oh.
Hopefully we change the world.
You guys are excellent, man.